Red Zone, Book 1, Wipeout Squad Audiobook Series.
Chapter 17, The Last Stand and the Second Dose. The evacuation perimeter materialized through the red fog like a mirage. Sandbag fortifications arranged in defensive semicircles, weapons emplacements that should have been manned but stood empty, and in the center, the landing pad where their salvation should have been waiting. Steele's enhanced perception drew probability lines through the scene, and every single one painted the same picture. Ambush. "Hold position," Steele ordered, raising his fist. His HUD flickered between hour 2103 and hour 2111 before settling on hour 2107. The timestamp was becoming increasingly unreliable. "Deadeye, what are you seeing?" The sniper had climbed onto a collapsed section of perimeter wall, his enhanced vision scanning the fortifications with surgical precision. "Nothing on thermal. No movement, no mutants. But boss, that's what's wrong. There should be something. Even if the position's been overrun, there should be bodies, signs of struggle. This place looks staged." "It is staged," Wolf confirmed, his scanner painting readings that made his hands tremble worse than usual. "I'm detecting massive concentrations of biomass beneath the landing pad, underground. The entire perimeter is sitting on top of a nest." Steele's tactical mind processed the implications. The network had let them reach the evacuation point, not out of mercy, but because this was where it wanted them. A kill box, perfectly positioned, with nowhere to run. "Options," Steele said flatly, checking his chronometer. They had perhaps 2 hours of suppressor protection remaining, maybe less given how fast the infection was progressing in all of them. "We need to cross this perimeter to reach the evac birds when they arrive. So how do we do it without walking into whatever trap the network has prepared?" "We don't," Hammer rumbled, his voice carrying that disturbing undertone that was becoming more pronounced with each passing hour. The regenerator had healed his injuries, but accelerated his transformation. "We spring the trap, fight through it, and secure the landing pad by force. Same way we've done everything else on this god-forsaken rock." "Breach," Steele looked to his demolitions expert, who was studying the fortifications with his one good arm cradling the wounded shoulder. "The sandbags are positioned wrong," Breach said slowly, his tactical mind working through exhaustion and pain. "Whoever set up these defenses knew what they were doing, but they're oriented inward, facing the landing pad, like they were meant to keep something in, not keep something out." "A trap within a trap," observed, his medical scanner showing elevated stress readings across the entire team. "The network wants us on that landing pad. Question is, why?" Steele's enhanced perception suddenly flooded with possibilities, scenarios, probabilities, tactical calculations all happening faster than conscious thought. And there, buried in the chaos of future possibilities, he saw something that made his blood run cold. "The evac birds," Steele said quietly. "When they land, the network will attack them. Use us as bait to draw in our extraction, then destroy it. We're not the target, we're the lure." "Then we don't wait for evac," Deadeye suggested. "We secure the perimeter, set up proper defensive positions, and we hold until command can send something heavy enough to punch through the horde." "With what ammunition?" Breach gestured at his empty weapon. "Most of us are dry. We've been running on fumes since the server room." "There might be supplies in the fortifications," Wolf offered, though his voice carried little hope. "If this was an active defensive position before the fall, there should be weapons caches, ammunition stores." "Already looted," Deadeye reported from his elevated position. "I can see into the bunkers from here. They're stripped clean. Whatever cleanup teams held this perimeter before us, they took everything when they evacuated." Steele felt the weight of command pressing down like a physical force. His team was exhausted, infected, running on borrowed time and empty magazines. The evacuation corridor was exactly where they needed to be, but it was also the perfect kill box, and the network knew they had no choice but to enter. "Wolf," Steele made his decision, You mentioned synthesizing suppressors from materials in the complex. Can you do it again? Here, now, with field equipment? The scientist's eyes widened behind his cracked faceplate. Theoretically, yes. I'd need a portable lab, chemical compounds, and about 47 minutes of uninterrupted work. But Sergeant, even if I could synthesize a second batch, it would only buy us another 12 hours at most. The suppressors have diminishing returns with repeated doses. 12 hours is 12 hours more than we have right now, Steele replied. And if we're going to hold this perimeter against whatever the network throws at us, we need to be functioning at peak capacity. Can you do it? Wolf's hand steadied with sudden purpose. The bunker, the main one, there. He pointed to a reinforced structure at the perimeter's edge. If it was used as a command post, it might still have medical supplies, chemical storage. I need someone to help me gather materials. Stitch, you're with Wolf, Steele ordered. Everyone else, we're setting up defensive positions. Deadeye, high ground. Find the best sniper nest and fortify it. Hammer, you're on the heavy barricade work. Breach, despite your shoulder, I need you to survey the perimeter for weak points. If the network attacks from below, like Wolf says, I want to know where they'll emerge. Boss, Breach said carefully, I've got maybe 3 functional fingers on my good hand. I'm not sure how much help I'll be with survey work. Then you observe and report. You're still the best tactical demolitions mind on this team, working hand or not. Steele checked his HUD again. Hour 21:14. Move out. We've got maybe 30 minutes before the network realizes we're fortifying. Once they know we're staying, they'll attack in force. The team scattered to their assigned tasks. Steele watched them go. 5 soldiers who were rapidly becoming something else, fighting against time and biology to complete one final mission. Then he turned his attention to the landing pad itself. It was standard military construction, reinforced ferrocrete, marking lights that still functioned despite years of abandonment, and a control tower that leaned at a precarious angle. But Steele's enhanced perception was showing him things that shouldn't be visible. Subtle movements beneath the surface, heat signatures that pulsed with organic rhythm, and worst of all, a network of veins spreading through the concrete itself. Infected. The whole damn perimeter was infected. Boss, Hammer's voice carried warning. You need to see this. Steele joined the big man at the perimeter's western edge, where Hammer had been clearing debris from a collapsed bunker. What the demolition had revealed made Steele's enhanced perception scream with danger. Cocoons. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all packed into the collapsed structure like eggs in a nest. Each one was roughly human-sized, pulsing with internal movement, and covered in a translucent membrane that let them see shapes inside, shapes that were familiar, disturbing, wrong. They're growing mimics, Hammer said, his voice tight. Look at them. You can see faces forming, our faces. He was right. Through the translucent membranes, Steele could see features that resembled himself, Hammer, the entire team. The network was growing replacement soldiers, perfect copies that could infiltrate, deceive, destroy from within. How long until they hatch? Steele asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted the answer. Unknown, but they're mature. See the way the membranes are thinning? They're ready. The network is just waiting for the right moment to... One of the cocoons exploded, not with force, but with a spray of amniotic fluid and a chorus of clicking mandibles. What emerged wasn't a mimic, it was something worse. Larvae, thousands of them. But these were different from the parasitic swarms they'd encountered before. These were explosive. Breach! Steele backpedaled as the larvae began to swarm. We need... The demolitions expert was already moving, his good hand pulling a lighter from his vest. Fire! They're designed to explode on contact. Don't let them touch you. Hammer's sledgehammer swept through the swarm, crushing hundreds of the creatures with each swing. But for every one he killed, 3 more emerged from rupturing cocoons. The entire collapsed bunker was becoming a living bomb, and they were standing at ground zero. Fall back! Steele grabbed Hammer's arm, hauling the big man away from the bunker. Everyone, Clear the western perimeter. We've got biologic ordnance about to... The larvae reached critical mass and detonated. The explosion wasn't fire and shrapnel. It was acid and tissue fragments. A wave of corrosive material sprayed across the western fortifications, eating through sandbags, dissolving metal, and reaching for exposed flesh with hungry efficiency. Steele felt droplets hit his armor, heard the ceramic coating begin to sizzle. One landed on his neck seal, already compromised from earlier battles, and punched through. Acid touched skin, burned deep, and Steele felt the red fog pour into the wound like liquid fire. "Boss is hit," Deadeye's voice came over comms. "Multiple breaches in his armor." Steele stumbled, his enhanced perception suddenly overloading with information. He could feel the fog now, not just breathing it, but feeling it merge with his bloodstream, his cells, his DNA. The infection that had been slowed by the suppressor was accelerating, using the acid wounds as highways into his system. I'm functional," Steele managed, though his HUD was painting warnings across his vision. Infection rate, critical. Cellular transformation, accelerating. Time to suppressor failure, 90 minutes. 90 minutes! Not the 2 hours he'd hoped for. "Where's Breach?" Hammer demanded, looking around frantically. "He was right here when..." They found the demolitions expert 20 meters away, half buried in debris from the explosion. His armor was scored with acid burns, his wounded shoulder now completely exposed where the ceramic plating had dissolved, and his face behind the cracked faceplate was pale with shock. "Stitch!" Steele shouted into comms. "Medical emergency! Breach is down!" The medic appeared with Wolf in tow, both of them carrying armfuls of supplies scavenged from the command bunker. Stitch dropped beside Breach, his scanner painting readings that made his expression tighten. "Severe acid burns," Stitch reported, his hands already moving with practiced efficiency. "The wound from earlier has been compromised. I'm seeing acid damage to muscle tissue, maybe bone. And the infection, boss, his suppressor is failing. The acid accelerated his cellular transformation." "How bad?" Steele forced himself to ask. "Bad enough that he's got maybe 20 minutes before the mutation becomes irreversible," Stitch said flatly. He pulled out his medical kit, searching through dwindling supplies. "I need to flush the wound with neutralizer, apply regenerative foam, and, damn it, I'm out of neutralizer. Wolf, did you find any in the bunker?" "No medical supplies," Wolf said, his voice breaking with frustration. "Just chemical compounds for the suppressors. I can synthesize them, but it'll take time we don't have." Breach's eyes fluttered open. When he spoke, blood bubbled from his lips. "Boss, the bridges." "Don't talk," ordered, kneeling beside his demolitions expert. "Save your strength. We'll get you patched up." "No time." Breach fumbled at his vest with his good hand, pulling out a remote detonator. The display showed 3 active charges still linked to his control system. Charges they'd placed on bridges leading into the evacuation corridor, meant as a last resort denial tactic. Breach, promise me." The demolitions expert's grip on Steele's arm was surprisingly strong. "I'm done, boss. I can feel it. The infection, it's winning. But those bridges can buy you time. When the horde comes, and they will come, you blow those bridges and you get Wolf and his data to orbit. You make my work count. Promise me." Steele took the remote, felt its weight like a physical burden. "I promise." Breach smiled through the blood. "Good. Now, Stitch, you got anything that'll make this easier?" The medic's hands hesitated over his kit. His eyes met Steele's, asking a question that had no good answer. "The experimental stimulant," Stitch said quietly. "The one I used before. It accelerated my infection, but it also gave me enhanced function for hours. I could give it to Breach, buy him time, give him a fighting chance." "Do it," Breach said before Steele could respond. "Rather die fighting than turn into one of them." Stitch pulled out the auto-injector, one of the suspect ones he'd marked with a red X during their initial equipment check. The ones that might be counterfeit, might cause hallucinations, might kill as easily as cure. "This is a risk," Stitch warned, pressing the injector against Breach's neck. I don't know what it'll do combined with your infection rate and the acid damage. You might die. You might transform. You might. Just do it. The hiss of compressed air, the rush of chemicals into Breach's bloodstream. For 5 terrible seconds, nothing happened. Then Breach's back arched with a scream that echoed across the perimeter. His body convulsed, veins standing out black against skin that was turning pale and waxy. His wounded shoulder began to smoke, tissue regenerating and mutating simultaneously. Wolf shouted, his scanner painting impossible readings. The stimulant is accelerating his healing, but it's also, oh God, it's accelerating his mutation. He's transforming in real time. Stitch grabbed Breach's thrashing form, trying to hold him steady. The infection and the stimulant are fighting for control of his cellular structure. If the stimulant wins, he heals.
If the infection wins. Breach's left hand, the wounded one that had been useless for hours, suddenly flexed. Fingers that should have been dead moved with unnatural precision. His shoulder, burned and acid-scored, began to regenerate before their eyes. But the tissue growing back was wrong, too smooth, too perfect, with a faint translucence that suggested viral transformation. Breach! Steele grabbed his soldier's other hand. Stay with us. Fight it. You're stronger than the infection. The demolitions expert's eyes snapped open. They were different now. Still human, but with an inner luminescence that spoke of something else looking out through Breach's skull. When he spoke, his voice carried harmonics that weren't entirely his own. I'm here. I think. Boss, I feel strange. Strong, but strange. He sat up, moving with fluid grace that was disturbing in its perfection. His wounded shoulder was still damaged but functional now, the acid burns reduced to angry scars. His left hand, the one that had been useless, now moved with enhanced precision. How do you feel? Stitch asked, his medical scanner painting readings that made no sense. Rate your pain on a scale of no pain, Breach interrupted. None at all. And I can see things, patterns, molecular structures. Boss, I'm looking at you and I can see the infection in your blood. I can see how the virus is rewriting your DNA in real time. That's the mutation, Wolf said, scientific horror mixing with fascination in his voice. The crimson virus enhances sensory processing. You're experiencing the same kind of augmentation that Steele has. Enhanced perception, accelerated cognition. But Breach, you need to understand, this is irreversible. The stimulant bought you function, but it also pushed you past the point where the suppressor can save you. How long? Breach asked, the question they were all thinking. Hours, maybe less. The transformation is happening, just slowly enough that you can stay functional. Wolf's scanner showed the brutal math. You'll have time to complete the mission. After that, I turn into one of them, Breach finished calmly. Well, better make these hours count then. Wolf, Steele made his decision. How long until you can synthesize those suppressors? 30 minutes if I work fast. But Sergeant, I need to be honest. The second dose is weaker than the first. It'll buy you 12 hours, maybe less. And the side effects? I don't care about side effects. We need those suppressors, all of us, even Breach, to slow his transformation as much as possible. Can you do it? Wolf's hand steadied with purpose. Yes, but I need someone to guard me while I work. The network knows we're here now. They'll attack before we can finish. Then we hold them off, Steele said simply. He turned to his team, 5 soldiers who were all transforming at different rates, all fighting against their own biology. Defensive positions. Deadeye, you're on Overwatch. Hammer, center position with me. Breach, despite everything, you're still our tactical mind. Tell us where they'll hit us first. Breach's enhanced perception, gift and curse of his accelerating mutation, studied the perimeter with eyes that saw too much. The landing pad. The biomass concentration Wolf detected earlier. It's a broodmother nest. Not as large as the one in the metro, but functional. When they attack, they'll come from below. erupting through the ferrocrete using the element of surprise. How long? Minutes, maybe less. They're waiting for something. Breach paused, his mutated senses picking up details that the equipment couldn't. Boss, they're waiting for us to inject the suppressors. They want us at our strongest before they attack. The network is curious about how we'll adapt. This isn't just a kill box, it's an experiment. Steele felt his enhanced perception confirm Breach's assessment. The network wasn't trying to kill them anymore. It was studying them, watching how 5 infected humans would fight against overwhelming odds while pumped full of chemicals designed to slow the very transformation that was giving them enhanced abilities. Then we'd give them a show they won't forget, Steele said grimly. Wolf, start synthesizing. Everyone else, weapons ready. We hold this position until Wolf is done. Then we all inject simultaneously. After that, we either evac successfully or we die trying. His HUD flickered. Hour 21:47. Approximately 1 hour of original suppressor protection remained. But with his armor breaches and the acid burns, Steele knew his actual time was far less. Boss, Stitch's voice was quiet as he worked beside Wolf, helping prepare the chemical compounds. Your neck wound, the acid burn, it's bad. You're breathing the fog directly into your bloodstream now. I know, replied, not turning around. His enhanced perception was already showing him the future. Probability lines that ended with him transformed, mutated, lost. How long do I have? 45 minutes, maybe an hour. The suppressor's failing faster in you than anyone else. Stitch's hands never stopped working as he spoke. When Wolf finishes the second dose, yours needs to be the strongest concentration. It's the only way to slow your transformation enough to matter. Understood. Now focus on Wolf's work. We need those suppressors. The landing pad began to rumble. Not an earthquake, something underneath, testing the ferrocrete, probing for weaknesses. Steele's enhanced hearing picked up the sound of acid eating through reinforced concrete, the scrape of claws against metal, the wet click of thousands of mandibles preparing to strike. Contact imminent, Deadeye called from his overwatch position. I'm seeing thermal blooms beneath the pad, multiple signatures. Boss, whatever's down there, it's massive. Wolf, Steele called out, his empty carbine feeling like deadweight in his hands. 20 minutes. The scientist's voice was tight with concentration. I'm working as fast as I can, but the chemical reactions can't be rushed. Then we buy you 20 minutes. Hammer, Breach, on me. Stitch, protect Wolf. Deadeye, call out threats before they emerge. Let's show this network what humans can do when we're backed into a corner. The landing pad exploded upward, and through the breach, the horde came. Crawlers by the dozen, leapers dropping from above, whisperers in stolen armor, and leading them all, a fresh broodmother whose crystalline crown pulsed with the rage of the Queen's effect. The final battle for the evacuation perimeter had begun, and Steele's timer showed hour 21:52. 40 minutes of protection remained. Maybe. For humanity, Steele said quietly, chambering his last round. For each other, Hammer replied, his sledgehammer already swinging. For tomorrow, Breach added, his mutated senses tracking targets with inhuman precision. For those who can't fight, Stitch finished, his pistol raised despite trembling hands. They stood together at the edge of extinction, 5 soldiers becoming monsters, fighting to save a species that might not survive them. The horde charged, and they met it with everything they had left.
Thank you for listening. New chapters will be released daily on the channel. This audio material was produced exclusively for the Section 56 channel. All rights reserved.